Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
This episode is coming out on my birthday.
I know, Kim. That's a big day for you. It's like a national holiday.
No shaming people who care about their birthdays.
I'm not shaming, but it's not like it's a major one. You're going to be 26. It's a nice day. And you'll go out for a nice dinner and you'll see some friends. Maybe we'll play some golf.
Yeah, we have a family dinner. Maybe see a few friends down here if I can. I'm still in Florida, going back and forth to New York, though. Yeah, it should be fun. I'm going to a golf tournament next weekend. I'm not playing in it, obviously. I'm going to watch
I don't know why you say that. You're so good.
And what else is new with you? I had friends stay here in your apartment with me last weekend while you were gone. Because
I know. I heard you were partying it up.
Not at your house. We didn't throw a party or anything.
But what did you do? You went on a boat. You did all kinds of activities, which
I tried on all your clothes in your closet. Slept in your bed.
I think they would be disappointed. She would definitely not be happy with those clothes.
It was a fun weekend. We went to the beach. We went out on a boat to this really fun kind of like Key West type of vibe place.
In Manalapan, right?
Yeah, area. And my friends from New York were visiting.
And I had the best time because I went to New Orleans to visit your brother, and we ate till we dropped. There was so much food there. I mean, I don't know how anybody can live in that city without gaining 200 pounds, but it really is delicious, and the weather was beautiful. And
what's your favorite thing you ate?
I think the baked Oreo beignets. They were mind-boggling, and the woman said that she wins all kinds of awards for her beignets, which I can honestly understand because they were out of this world.
And you said you were recognized?
Oh, that was funny. We went for lunch at some cute little coffee shop near the campus of Tulane, and 3 girls came up to me and said, "We're obsessed with your podcast, you and your granddaughter." I said, "Oh, thank you so much."
And TikTok.
Oh, and TikTok too. Yeah. Of course, that's where they see us. So your grandfather couldn't believe it. It was like, he said, "Did you pay for those girls to come over here?" I said, "No, they came over on their own." So It was really fun.
We get recognized quite a bit. Some people always ask me, "Do you guys get recognized?"
Oh, yeah.
I've
had a lot.
In New York, in Miami, and I guess now in New Orleans. And it's so exciting. I love when people come up to us. Like, it actually makes my day. So
yeah, well, it validates that we're doing something that people are enjoying. They're laughing with us, and so that's good.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to what we're discussing this week. There's so many conversations amongst everyone right now about what is happening in the workplace. What is our work situation? Are we remote? Do we have to go in certain days? Obviously, all because of COVID and the way that the world is going with that right now. And even after this, like, do people want to be in the office 5 days a week? Have we completely changed the way that people work?
Yeah, I was going to also say, and it's also how people work together, whether it's more productive to be in an office situation. In many cases, a lot of the people are saying that, it's the only way you can get mentorship really going. And then there's the other side that says they're not going to want to be in that kind of stressful situation anymore, and a lot are going, especially the Gen Z generation is going on their own and working for themselves or doing something completely different than the old-fashioned model for work.
That's the thing. It depends, like, if you want to be more entrepreneurial, like, of course, then you can kind of be wherever you need to be. Then there's people who like work with a team and they have to be with their team. In that situation, I see why you would want to be in person. But also a lot of my friends, they have jobs where it's like they kind of interact their teams, but most of the time it's like their head down, like on their computer. And in that case, like, wouldn't they rather be in their own homes?
You know what? We're going to talk to an expert, but I sort of think that work needs to be done in a workplace, even if it's not done full time.
So today we have on Erica Keswin, who is a workplace strategist. And even before COVID, she's been doing this for a while. She helps figure out the human quality in the workplace, bringing people together to make a more productive space. And she tells us all about how to be basically happy in your professional and personal lives and have a balance. So we have a very interesting conversation with her.
And she has a family and has done it herself. She has written several books. She's certainly an authority in the field. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her.
So, guys, we are joined by Erica Keswin. She is a workplace strategist. We're going to ask her what that means and what that's all about. She is an author of 2 books. Left to Our Own Devices is her podcast. And we're going to get into it right now. So, Erica, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so great to see you guys.
So let's start with what we ask all of our guests, where you're from and your current relationship status.
I am from Fairfield, Connecticut, and I am married for going on 22 years.
Amazing. And you have kids?
I have 3 kids. I have twin girls who are freshmen in college and a son who is a junior in high school.
Good job.
You are a workplace strategist. You look at people and culture and how in the workplace you can bring your human to work. What exactly is a workplace strategist and what do companies hire you for?
Great. So, it's funny. You mentioned my first book was called Bring Your Human to Work. And so many people think I'm talking about my dog.
Yeah.
I mean, because we all think our dogs are so human and a lot of people are talking about bringing their dogs to work. So as an aside, so a workplace strategist is somebody who helps companies improve their performance through their people. So looking at the kinds of people they should hire, how they should structure the company, what kind of training they should have, how they should pay people, and really helping them to create a strong culture, because when people leave a company, it's really expensive. And so that's what I do.
So how did you get started in that? What was your work experience before this?
So after I graduated from college, I had never heard, I don't even know if there were workplace strategists back then, graduating from college in 1990, which clearly dates me. But, I did what many, kids raised in a Jewish family do. They're like, oh, I'm going to go to law school. So I moved to Washington, D.C. and I applied to law school and I deferred. And I was like, well, maybe I should decide if I really want to go to law school before investing 3 years in law school. So I got a job in a consulting firm, kind of doing whatever it is they wanted me to do. And I found that a lot of the work I was doing was sort of, I felt like it was sitting on a shelf in a binder. Like I would do these studies, but I didn't really feel like they were impacting anybody. And so I started talking to anybody who would talk to me about what they do for a living. And I came across a different kind of consulting, which focuses more on the people side. I'd never heard of it and started to just research it. And when I went back to business school at Northwestern, that was my focus. It was a combination of business and psychology. So I'm like the business psychologist.
Now, how does that differ? I'm just curious. You do all the work before somebody gets a job versus somebody who's an HR in a company who hears complaints, or I guess is also a strategist in a way. Are they?
Yeah.
I mean,
I help them. I mean, I do both.
And
And so I'm not inside the company. I mean, I used to be back in the day, but now they'll call me if they need, ideas about their culture, because sometimes when you're so in it on a day-to-day, you need that outside opinion to say, have you thought about this, or this? You sort of get stuck in your old ways.
I'm thinking as you're asking these questions, this isn't in my notes, but you've never worked at a company.
I haven't, but I know what an HR is.
Yeah.
Because I remember when you worked.
When you do sort of have a toxic relationship with your manager, I've been there. I know plenty of my friends have been there. It seems to be very common. What can you do? Because I even have a girlfriend going through this now where she's like, I want to leave the company. I hate my job. But if, there was a change of management, she actually does like what she's doing. So
yeah,
how do you approach
Well,
that?
it's an interesting time to be talking about this right now in the midst of what everyone is calling the Great Resignation, that people are quitting in droves and companies need people. I know you guys are down in Florida right now. I'm in New York City. Everybody from New York City is moving to Florida. These companies need people. And 9 out of 10 people leave their manager. They're not leaving the company. And so if there was ever a time to connect with HR, connect with your boss's boss. Again, there's something in companies, I don't know if you had them in your old job, called an ERG, which is an employee resource group. There could be one for all women. There could be one for people of color. There could be one for millennials. But figuring out different pockets in the organization where you can find someone to have these open and honest conversations, I would bet that, if you're good at your job and your friend, if she is doing her job, they are not going to want to lose her, because the cost to find a new person and retrain them can be up to 300% of somebody's job. And so I don't think a person who's performing really is at risk of being fired. And right now they need you more than you need them. So I would be very open and upfront about looking for opportunities in the company.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yes, very.
For those listening, I would urge you, this is totally cheesy, but I think resonates, which is your goal as a leader is to get the values off the walls and into the halls. Because so many companies, and I'm sure the company where you work, there's a little plaque on the wall. This is who we are, and this is what we stand for. But a lot of times it's total BS. So the idea is, how can you come up with ways to actually live those values and really mean it?
Mm-hmm. I love that, because literally my next question was like that poster on the wall of your core values. It's one thing to memorize them. Yeah,
like gagging, right?
We have people write in all the time saying, "Can I date a coworker? Is that a good idea?" We probably get that question like once a week.
We're relationship gurus.
We always say no, and kind of to err on the side of caution with that. But I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, certainly you don't want to date your boss.
Right.
And if you're the boss, right, you don't want to date the underling. Some companies actually have written rules about it. But at the same time, that it is a very logical place to meet someone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I don't know. To me, it wouldn't be black or white. I think it would be if I really met someone and felt like this is someone that I really saw a future with. I would think long and hard about it, and maybe even see how serious I am, and then either talk to the company, move to a different group, or even say to my significant other or this person I'm dating, you know what, like which one of us, I've had friends do this, which one of us is going to leave because we both can't stay. But
because the
I don't know,
if you break up. Exactly.
Well, and then you could, right. And then you very well might break up, but I do know many instances where, I don't know, like meeting somebody at work is a pretty great place to meet someone where you're yourself and you're, versus, I don't know, well, you guys are the dating experts. I never had to do online dating. I met my husband in a more traditional, at a party. But I don't know. I think meeting somebody at work would be great. You'd really just have to figure out the politics and if it's worth it.
Yeah. I do feel though, like people have workplace crushes, and like they wouldn't actually be crushes in real life or in any other environment. I don't know if maybe in psychology, if you have a little bit more insight to this, but like, why do people develop crushes on the people they work with? Is it just the amount of time spent together?
Yeah, you are with them. You're with them. You're working on projects. They're helping you. And then you go home at the end of the night and they're not seeing your annoying habits,
Right.
That you're seeing. Like when you go to work, you're presumably bringing, you want to bring your whole self, but you're also bringing your best self or your most professional self. So they're not seeing all the warts. And then you're sort of idealizing, that aspect of that person because they're typically on their best behavior. We often hear about the term, oh, this is my work husband. This is my work wife.
Right.
But so you get to spend all the time and have the up without going home and figuring out who's going to do the dishes, and put the kids to bed.
Hmm. So in your actual relationships, like I'm thinking now, I'm going through this, tons of my friends are, especially in their 20s and early 30s, where this is really the time to grind. Like you're working a ton. And how do you make your love life still a priority when work is so high up on the list? And also from the other perspective, what would you say to a significant other who maybe is feeling a little bit neglected because their partner is so into work all the time?
Yeah. So one of the things I always say to people when they're dealing with how to prioritize so many different things in your life. And this could be if you're in your 20s, in your 50s and your 70s, it could be at any age, because we're all, especially as women, right? We're all juggling a million things. The question that I ask myself, and I would love to hear your answers, is, does your calendar reflect your values? Does the calendar reflect your priorities? And that can change over time, but doing that analysis and making that little pie chart and saying, okay, right now, you know what? I need to hit it out of the ballpark at work. Maybe I've had like a couple jobs and I haven't stayed in one place and I really need this one to stick. You may then have to say to yourself, you know what, for the next 6 months, I'm not going to date as much. Or if I do have a significant other, even having that conversation and saying, look, it's not that you're not important, but there's only 24 hours in a day. Or maybe you say to your family, your extended family, you know what, there's only 24 hours in the day. I'm in this relationship and I'm working. Like, something has to take a back seat. And I think you don't want to leave it to chance. You want to be intentional and almost analytical about it and make a proactive decision, on which thing is going to give.
They can't work 24/7. And if they are working 24/7, then maybe he shouldn't be with you. He should be in his office. I really think that there's a conflict. There has to be a time when you shut your phone off and you talk to somebody. I don't think it should be.
Yeah, but I think that can be maybe when you're sitting at the dinner table, not just like when you're hanging out in the living room. Some people are watching TV. I think you're allowed to answer work emails.
It's up to you.
Well, right. I mean, to me, it's about having those kinds of conversations. Now, you might think that he is working. He may be in 3 fantasy football leagues.
I want to talk about another buzzy topic right now, diversity in the workplace. When it comes to hiring right now, like, what trends are you seeing?
So many companies are actually hiring their first diversity and inclusion officer, someone to actually own that space, and be in charge of it. So I think that's the first step to really look at it. And then it's getting underneath the data. I mean, I guess it's a couple things. One, it's defining diversity. I think there's race and gender, which are, we have to start there. And we already know there's a lot of disparities in the workplace, specifically in those areas. But then beyond that, when you're looking at really creating a diverse team, a diverse organization, there's other kinds of diversity. It's diversity of education. It's, you want to have introverts and extroverts. I mean, and so the idea is to really define diversity, see how you're doing, set some goals, and, try to bring, I mean, it is not easy. But then even when you have, like, let's say we're on a team and we have let's say we have this amazing team, it's diverse team. If the person next to me never speaks in our meeting, we're not getting a return on that investment in this diversity. So a lot of it then is up to the managers. It goes back to your very first questions, which is around creating a more human workplace where people feel like they can speak up. Right. And that's why I wrote the rituals book, because if you can create some rituals, in the beginning of a meeting where everybody talks and says something, and it's more inclusive, even in terms of getting them involved in the conversation, that's one step in the right direction.
It's a very fine line, because now
it is.
We're not going to solve it right now. I think it's going to take years to get to a level where you can really have what we would really want to be a diverse team. Just putting somebody there because they're of a different race or a different, whether it's a man or a woman or whatever. I think it's almost artificial right now. Maybe 5 years down the road, it'll happen.
Well, but even with pay, even just the pay equity, I mean, it's years. We have a long way to go.
How long have the women been saying that? I mean, and there's finally in many areas getting there, but it's taken a struggle. Billie Jean King talked about it 25 years ago.
So let's talk about your newest book, Rituals Roadmap. So explain to people, what is a ritual?
So glad you asked. A ritual has 3 parts. The first is, a ritual is something to which we assign a certain amount of meaning and intention. The second part of the definition, is that a ritual, it typically has a regular cadence. So a ritual could be something we do every morning. It could be something we do once a week. It could be something we do once a year with our family, with our team at work. The third part, though, is something I really hadn't considered, which is a ritual is something that goes beyond its practical purpose. So let's say, for those who aren't looking at us right now, I'm actually sitting in my closet. And let's say the lights go out and I light a candle so I can see what I'm doing. That's not a ritual. But if I light a candle every day at 6 o'clock to to really highlight the end of my workday and the beginning of my time at home with my husband, my kids, that's a ritual. I'm not lighting that candle at 6 o'clock so I can see something, see my letter that I'm writing. It's because there's meaning and intention around it. So that is my working definition.
Mm-hmm. So what are the benefits of having rituals, both in the workplace and maybe in your personal life as well?
So what rituals give us is what I call the 3 Ps of rituals. I took all the science and the data and created this equation called the 3 Ps. The first is rituals give us a sense of psychological safety and that feeling of belonging. Mm-hmm. The second P is that rituals give us an opportunity to connect to purpose. And when you add those two together, you get the third P, which is increased performance. Now, I'll say what I mean by that, both for us in our personal lives and also at work. So in our personal lives, when we have rituals, when we feel that sense of connection to others or to ourselves, our oxytocin, that feel-good hormone inside of us, goes up. And our cortisol, which is our stress, actually goes down. And so there is a physiological response that you feel in your body. I don't know if you've been on a girls' trip or I was just out right before this podcast out with a bunch of friends for a birthday lunch. And there's just this group of us, 5 of us, we always rotate and take each other out. And there's just this feeling of connection and you feel like you're almost on this high. From a business perspective, when you feel that at work, when you feel that sense of bringing your whole self and that sense of belonging, collaboration goes up by 46% and productivity goes up by up to 50%. So the numbers are real. And that's the benefit of trying to think about ways to help people feel really connected at work.
Mm-hmm. Grandma, do you think you have any rituals in your life?
Well, I guess I don't know if I have any rituals. I really used when I had a family, there was a ritual. I would have, I knew I had to get up in the morning, make breakfast. That was a ritual for the children and for my husband. I knew that the ritual during the evening was that dinner would be served. There were rituals, and and then there was a time when the kids would go to bed, and then your grandfather and I would sit down, and we would either talk about our days and these are all rituals. They were all stages of the day that we did to complete, to make it something meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, now you wake up and you read the paper and have your coffee every day. Like, would that be considered a ritual, or is that more just like habit?
I think that's a habit. And
well, that's a really interesting question. So, it could be a ritual or it might not be a ritual. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So I'm a big coffee drinker. Every day I go to Starbucks, wherever I am in the world, if there's one nearby, and I get my coffee. And I've been doing it for many, many years. And one day, a bunch of years ago, I sat down, I was in the Starbucks, pre-pandemic, and I had my to-do list and I'm checking on, I like to make my list by hand and check off my little boxes and feel productive. And I looked down and my coffee was gone. I drank the whole thing and I didn't even taste it. Like I didn't even remember. And I was so bummed because I look forward to that cup of coffee literally before I go to bed. So in that moment, that act of getting my coffee went from being a routine, something that I just did, to a ritual. I think of it more as like back of brain to the front of the brain, something that you just do versus something with intention. So now when I get my coffee every day, I go in and I get it and I just pause, I sit down or I bring it home. I feel the heat of the cup on my hands. I take a couple of deep breaths, kind of settle, and that is my ritual. Like there's meaning and intention. And I think it's an awareness, like it makes you aware of what's going on. So reading the paper, getting your coffee and reading the paper may be a routine, or now after this conversation, who knows, every day that you do it now, you're going to sit there, maybe you'll take a deep breath and settle in for your day. And that could become a ritual.
No,
Well, you would have to start. It's because you put oatmeal in the bowl with hot water. That's a ritual.
no, but
You
I
really
already
have
think of mine
rituals.
as a ritual
You have
because
rituals.
like I watch reality TV and eat my oatmeal and drink my coffee. And to me, I know it's the time of day that like no one can bother me.
Right.
Like 'cause
Yes.
the rest of the
That's your
day, like I'll
ritual.
look at my phone, I'll do texts and emails and like I'll, interact with people. But this is the one time like I will not interact with anybody except for like the Real Housewives of New York. And I'll be
Well,
happy.
but I love that. And how do you know if something is a ritual? You would miss it like crazy if you missed it for a day. So, there's a day here and there when, for whatever reason, you couldn't do it, but you would feel a loss that settles you. And that's how you begin the day and you look forward to it. And the other way to think about it is, what do you do in your life that makes you feel most like you? And it might just be in those few moments in the morning.
So what happens because there are days where I have to like skip my morning ritual and I will be upset for the rest of the day. What happens if, sometimes things get in the way or at the work if let's say at work, you have a ritual that it has to be postponed till next week, like it could put you kind of in an anxious position. I feel like how do you then navigate that?
I think it depends on what it is, that we do need to be flexible with rituals, that, anything taken to the extreme, is not a good thing. So we need to be flexible. The flip side, though, even using the example of your ritual, is that maybe you say, you know what, what I realize is I love this in the morning. I couldn't do it, but I still need 15 minutes to not have for me. I need 15 minutes of me time. Ideally, it's in the morning. So when I can't do it, I'm going to carve it out at 3:00. And, I'll send, if I'm doing a podcast or if I'm doing something, I'll send my family like a group text saying, do not bother me, from this time to this time. And you sort of let everybody know that you are, it's the proverbial putting the oxygen mask on yourself. And it is a type of self-care. If it's at work and if it's with other people, it's schedules are trickier. But I think you can try to build it in.
Yeah. Time out for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee at the office.
Right.
That's it.
Are there any rituals you've heard at certain companies that are kind of weird or bizarre that people might find interesting?
Yeah. So the way that I figured out, I interviewed hundreds of people for the book, and I would explain what a ritual is. I would talk about the 3 Ps and the benefits of the rituals, and still some of the people wouldn't be able to say what the rituals were. They just weren't sure. So I came up with a question that when asked, most times I could almost like see the light bulb coming out of the person's head. And so the question is, I'll give you guys the magic question. The magic question is, I asked, for example, to, the founder and CEO of Allbirds, when do employees feel most Allbirds-ish? When do they feel most connected? Or if I were to ask my kids, when do you feel most connected to our family? And the answer to that oftentimes leads you to the ritual. So when I asked this at Allbirds, I got the coolest answer, which was, oh, we have something called 40 at 4. And I was like, okay, well, what is 40 at 4? And they said that every day at 4:00, they stop and do 40 push-ups. And what's really cool about it is that, rituals can come from anywhere, top down, bottom up, or the inside out. And in this case, a random employee went to the doctor one day and was feeling kind of under the weather. And he came back to the office and he said, you know what? I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to set a goal for myself and I'm going to do a gazillion push-ups between now and the end of the year. And he took that number and he divided it by the number of days left in the year. And the number came out to be 40. So if he did 40 push-ups every day between then and the end of the year, he'd hit his goal. And so because he was in the office all the time, he started doing them at work. The guy across the hall joined, the woman joined, in the next cubicle. And next thing they know, everybody's doing these push-ups. And the last chapter in the book is all about rituals during turbulent times. And I was able to chat with them during the pandemic to say, oh my gosh, like this is such a big part of your culture. What are you doing at 4:00? And they said they still did it they would rotate who did it online, and they would videotape the people, and it was really funny. So that was one of my favorite rituals.
That's amazing.
That's great. That's why everyone's buying their shoes.
That's why everyone
Yeah.
Exactly. They're very smart.
Yeah. So speaking of being remote during this time, and I know companies are kind of doing that again, or have been this entire time, how can people really maintain their workplace culture during this? I know that's an example, but let's say there aren't really rituals like that at their company. What do you do in that situation?
What would you suggest?
Yeah. It goes back to the concepts around, how can we put things in place that really honor relationships, and how can we do things that make people feel included? And the area where I've been focused on it the most lately is in these meetings, because many times in companies, we have a couple of people in the office and we have people at home. When we were all at home, it was more democratic. We were all in the same boat. And, we could figure out, fun things to do in the beginning of a call, the end of a call, whatever that is. But now things are really stressful, because if you, like right now, you two are together, and I'm at home. And if the two of you all of a sudden just started chatting with each other, and I'm sitting here, twiddling my thumbs, like I'm going to feel crappy. And that's not what you want at work. And so the leaders that are really making strides are being very intentional. For example, they'll say, okay, everybody, we're all going to come on, and they have rules of the road, like cameras on or cameras off. I don't think cameras should always be on, because people are so burned out, but at least once a week, we need to remember that there's an actual human behind the camera. Number two, let's say half are in the office, half are at home, and they're asking people to weigh in on things. They'll say, okay, let's hear from somebody at home. And then they alternate. Okay, now somebody in the office. Again, very orchestrated and not leaving it to chance. The last thing I would say, and this is a huge one for people listening, if you're dealing with a hybrid situation and you're all on a call, having a meeting, and the meeting ends, make sure it really ends. Because the worst thing, and people feel so crappy, is if the three of us are on this call and I log off because I'm remote, and then the meeting goes on with the people that are in the room. And then the next time we all meet, I can tell that decisions were made.
And you weren't a part.
It's bad for business. People are going to feel badly, and it's going to lead to turnover. And so, those are just off the top of my head, a couple of ideas, but really, again, thinking about these decisions through the lens of all of the different relationships at work.
So interesting.
She's great. She's great. I love her.
I know.
So brilliant.
I feel like we're learning a lot. So to end out the episode here, we ask all of our guests what their relationship was with their grandma. I know you had a Grandma Gail as well. What was your relationship with her?
So funny.
I know. Well, it was funny when we all got connected and you sent me the note. I put it in our family group chat, and my kids were like, they almost read it wrong. They're like, wait, why are you going to be on a podcast with Grandma Gail? My mom actually passed away like a month into COVID. So it was even more exciting to meet my new Grandma Gail.
Okay. I'm grandma to the whole world then.
Yes, you're going to be my new Grandma Gail. And when my kids come down to Florida in a couple of weeks, you have to meet them too.
That's great.
And so, so my mom, it was a very special woman. When I went to college, my parents got divorced when I was 10. And when my sister and I went to college, she adopted two kids who were 2 and 3, who are now in their mid-30s and have their own kids. So we have a very interesting and blended modern family. But she, wanted to do, we had foster kids, just wanted to do good in the world, and took these 2 kids in when sadly, their family couldn't. And that's what she dedicated her life to.
What did she think of your husband when you first met?
I don't know if did she ever give me, I don't know if she really gave me advice on my love life per se, but because I didn't meet my husband till I turned 30. So I feel like by the time I turned 30, I was like, okay, I kind of know myself, and I didn't necessarily need the advice. But I do remember my husband's from Minnesota. He talks very quickly. So they're all like, wow, hope we can understand this guy because he talks really fast. And they were like, and he's blonde. And like, are you sure he's Jewish? I'm like, yes, he's Jewish and he's blonde and he's from Minnesota.
Sounds like something you would say pretty much.
Well, get all the questions out there before it's too late.
Exactly.
So with all of our guests, we play a quick game to end the episode. Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz. She hates it.
I hate it.
But she was like, Erica is too smart to play this game. I was like, Grandma, we play this with everyone. We're playing it.
Oh no, this is a lot of pressure.
I know.
No, it's only a few things. And basically, with your answers, we deem whether you are more of a modern dater, hypothetically, or an old-fashioned dater.
Okay.
So just, like, depending on your values. So number one would be with somebody that you're in a relationship with, would you prefer to get a call or a text from them?
Call.
Okay. Would you sleep with someone on the first date?
I might, but probably not.
Okay. Dating apps or setups?
Well, it's funny. I've set up 3 marriages, which means I'm already going to heaven, as we know. So I've checked that box. So I am very much, look, I'm a serial connector. I'm a, dot connector. So I'm into the setups. I'm into getting to know the person and making that very personal. You need to meet so-and-so, and this is why.
Mm-hmm. Would you move in together with the person before getting engaged or wait until after? Or you're married?
I would move in, and I did, but I didn't get rid of my apartment because I was like, it's rent subsidized and I'm not going to be stupid.
I love it. Okay, last one. Should one person pay for the date or for dinner every time, or is it good to alternate?
I don't know if you need to alternate, but I think it's, let's say we're in a traditional, stereotypical relationship, and the guy is paying, I'd say maybe once every, I don't think you need to go one, back and forth, but maybe once every 4th time, it's nice to pick up the check.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
she's traditional.
3 out of 5. She gets so excited because she's traditional and I'm modern, but you are more, a little bit split, but more of a traditional dater, Erica.
Yay. And she's not dating, so it doesn't matter.
Not dating.
So how can people follow you and get your book?
Sure. So my website is ericakeswin.com, and it's just my name on Instagram. And I'm always trying to get more followers than my 3 teenagers. So follow me on Instagram. And, the link to the books are on there, and would love to hear from people. And, if there's anybody, I'm happy to also, for your followers, when this gets published, if you heard something that you really enjoyed today, tag me, tag the 2 of you, and I'm happy to give away a few books.
Oh, amazing.
That
Thank
sounds
you
great.
so much. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the episode with Erica. Our 50s movie of the week does have to do, of course, with the workplace. Desk Set. It's a 1957 rom-com. Grandma, you just rewatched it, right?
Oh, it was so great. Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. I mean, it was the birth of the computer and how disruptive it was to just the normal kind of office life that was prior to the computer coming on the scene.
We've definitely come a long way.
Now
we're like
have,
in the metaverse.
but it was terrific. The love affair between them, and the movie itself is just a treat. So everybody should just watch it.
Okay, another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. Please subscribe and leave us a review if you haven't yet. Tell your friends about us. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Even if I know you guys love our TikTok videos, but pressing follow would actually help us a lot.